So now welcome to Quick Tip Monday, episode number 9. In today's video, I'm discussing the topic of do freight brokers need good credit to get their business started? And since we're on the topic of credit, I'm going to take you inside my credit report and show you exactly how to obtain the elusive 800 credit score. So now let's get into the business. So now before we get started, I need a big assist from you. If you've done some specific things with your credit and it's increased your credit score or it's decreased your credit score, I certainly would appreciate it if you would share it in the comments. Also, if you want to learn more about the freight broker business, check out my free 5-video series titled How the Load Movement Process Works, link in the description. And last but not least, if you're not quite sure what to say to customers when you're getting ready to make those calls, check out my free video titled What Do I Say to Shippers? Okay, so the first question that we're going to address is, do freight brokers need good credit? Now, before we decide whether or not we need something, I think it's a good idea that we take a look at the system in which we're operating, and then we can determine whether it's a need or not. So when we take a look at the American system, the American economy, there's approximately $53 trillion in the American economy. Now, the question is, how much of it is cash and how much of it is credit? So now in a video titled How the Economy Works by Ray Dalio, he does an excellent job, explains to us how the economy works in a very easy to understand way. So I would highly suggest you to take a look at that if you haven't already. It's going to break the economy down and show you how it works. Now with that said, what he says in that video is that $50 trillion is comprised of credit in the United States economy, and then there are actually $3 trillion in cash. So that would tell us right away that we need to have access to credit. We need to build good credit so that we can have access to the best rates when we're going to borrow money. Because what we have to understand is borrowing money costs us money to borrow that money. There's an interest rate attached to it. And the better credit that we have, then of course the better interest rates we are extended. And the less money we're paying for credit, the better for our businesses, because we get to put more of that money back into the business. And you'll learn right away how bad credit will affect your chances of getting your freight broker business off of the ground. Because you see, we're required to have a surety bond as freight brokers. And all surety bond providers will check your personal credit. A lot of times we think, hey, the surety bond provider will check the business credit. Well, you just got the business established, and the business doesn't have any credit established yet. So what the provider will do is check your personal credit. And if your personal credit is good, meaning you have a 680 credit score and higher, then you usually get extended to better rates. And if you are 679 and below, then you're going to get extended rates that are not as good as people who have higher credit scores. So we want to focus our attention on making sure that we have the best credit score that we can have when we go and apply for a surety bond. Because you can have a surety bond for $900 per year, or you can have a surety bond for $10,000 a year with $8,000 down. Those are numbers that you can't sustain as a business owner. So we want to make sure that we square away the credit first. And once we have the credit squared away, then we can go and apply for the surety bond. But of course, I'm not saying that you shouldn't get a surety bond if your rate is higher than $900, because I've seen people qualify for surety bonds $3,000 and less and still do very fine. As a matter of fact, my first surety bond was $3,000. But since that time, surety bonds have decreased in price. So when we're looking at a good surety bond now, we're saying that about $2,500 and below per year. But now at the same time, we have to get ourselves in good credit standing so we can qualify for a rate like that. So now another way that bad credit can affect you getting your freight broker business started is you're more than likely going to need what's called a factoring company. And a factoring company comes in and they stand in the middle and say, hey, Brandon over at Alliance Logistics is not responsible for paying these invoices. We've taken over that responsibility. He's working with us now, and we're going to pay all of his invoices. We're his factoring company. So when that happens, they sometimes are going to check your credit to make sure that you're good to go. Now, no, they are not extending the credit to you necessarily, because the shipping company will be paying the invoice. But in a sense, they are extending the credit to you, because if the shipper doesn't pay, then you'll have to pay. So they're more than likely going to check your credit, and if they check your credit and you have good credit, then they'll open a relationship with you, and if you don't, there's a chance that they won't. So we want to make sure that we have good credit, because if you don't, there's a very real possibility that you'll have to finance your own receivables, and that means that you can only move as many loads as you can pay for. So your business is going to be very limited by the cash that you have on hand. That is why we want to use factoring companies, because they give us the opportunity to move as many loads as we can move without worrying about how we're going to pay for them. But we have to have good credit in order to get these relationships extended to us, at least with some factoring companies. So make sure that your credit is A-OK before you go and apply with factoring companies. That way you can ensure that you get approved. Bad credit can also limit the services that you're able to provide to your shipper. You see, as freight brokers, we're always trying to provide different services that add value to our customer's business, because it helps us to become more attractive, and of course, it helps us to extend those relationships longer, and that's what it's all about. And one of the services that we offer is we go in and say that we're going to pay for our shippers' lumper fees, because what it does is allow for the shipper not to have to get in the weeds on every single load and pay the lumper fees for all of those loads. It just says, hey, we're going to pay those lumper fees in advance, and then the shipper can come back and reimburse us when they pay for the invoice. This is a huge convenience for the shipper, but you cannot offer that convenience if you don't qualify for an EFS account or a Comdata account. These are accounts that allow for you to pay those fees electronically. And most times, lumper fees and fuel advances are going to need to be paid electronically. So you're going to want to make sure that your credit is squared away so that you can qualify for an EFS account or a Comdata account. So now for the business line of credit or the business loan, it's not about your personal credit, it's about the business credit. So what we want to do is make sure that our business credit is squared away before we go and apply for a business loan or a business line of credit. Oftentimes people go in and start to apply for a business loan or business line of credit to get their business started. But I want you to think about that for a minute. What you're asking the bank to do is to invest in a company that hasn't produced anything. Let's say you're asking for a $50,000 business line of credit. You're asking the bank, you're saying, hey, Mr. Banker, will you invest in $50,000 into my idea? Because that's all it is. You haven't made any money yet. You haven't had any credit extended to you yet. You haven't paid anything yet. And you're asking the bank to invest just in your idea. And usually the bank is not just going to invest in your idea. They're going to have a little bit more than that. So here's what I would suggest that you do in order to establish business credit. Number one, get set up for a secured business credit card. Handle that credit card for 6 to 12 months, pay it on time, pay it in full every single month, and then apply for an unsecured credit card. Do the same thing with that credit card for a 12-month period. Now, after you've done that with the secured credit card and the unsecured credit card, now you can go and apply for a business line of credit. And you will very likely get it through a major bank, just like I did with Wells Fargo. So now to answer the question directly, do you need good credit to start a freight broker business? Well, you don't necessarily need it, but it certainly would work out in your best interest if you had good credit based on the things that we just discussed.
Okay, so I pulled up my credit report here, and I'm gonna share with you not only what it takes to get an 800 credit score, but I'm also going to allow for you to follow on inside my report so you can see exactly what it looks like. So we're gonna start off here with on-time payments. Now, when we're trying to get an 800 credit score, it's imperative that we do everything right. We gotta do everything perfectly. So when it comes down to your number of on-time payments, it needs to be 100%. You don't wanna miss any payments. If you have any missed payments on your credit report, you wanna go back and make sure that you pay those payments and don't miss any payments moving forward. And it's gonna take a little while before you get to that 800, but don't miss any payments because you won't get there by missing payments. Next, we're gonna talk about your credit utilization. As you can see here, my credit utilization right now is 15%, and it shows your sign here that it's up 11%. So usually, I try and keep my credit usage between 0 and 5%. So I would suggest to you that if you're trying to achieve an 800 credit score, you wanna be between 0 and 5% on your credit usage, because it shows that you are responsible with credit. You don't just go out and get credit and start using it because you have it, you use it responsibly. Some people think that if you have a small balance, that it works out in your favor. Actually, that's a myth. If you have a balance, then it decreases your score. So we want to make sure that every single month we're paying our balances off in full, because we're not trying to get an okay score. We're trying to get the highest possible score. Now, when we're talking about the highest score, credit scores range between 300 and 850, but usually when you have an 800 or higher, people consider that a perfect score. So in order to get the perfect score, we want to make sure that we're keeping our credit utilization between 0 and 5%. Next, we're going to talk about the length of your credit history. Now, if you look down here, my length of credit history says almost 10 years, 9.7 years. Now, of course, you can't make this go any faster than it's going to go. You just have to go ahead and start building your credit as soon as possible. But this is how it works. Let's say that you go out and you opened a credit card 5 years ago, and then you open a credit card today. Well, now your credit length goes from 5 years to 2.5 years because you opened that credit card today, because it's based on the average length of your credit, not the total length. The total lines of credit that you have open, your total accounts. As you can see here, it shows 26 total accounts. That's excellent. Credit Karma says that you want to have at least 21 accounts when you're attempting to achieve the elusive 800 credit score. Okay, so that's not just about going out and opening a lot of accounts at one time. When you start to make the decision to get credit, make those decisions responsibly. The more credit that you have available to you means the higher limits that you're going to have, and the lower your utilization should be. And then, of course, the more on-time payments you should be able to report, because you had more credit extended to you, if that makes sense. And of course, a mixture of credit is always going to work in your favor. It's going to show lenders how well you respond to the different types of credit you have. If you have credit cards, then you have maybe a mortgage, or you have a car loan. Those are different types of credit. Now, the next area that we're going to look at, the number of inquiries that you have on your credit. If you can see here, I have 4 inquiries on this credit report. I usually have between 0 and 2 credit inquiries on my report. So now these are the different areas that affect your credit score. On-time payment history accounts for 35% of your score. Your credit utilization will account for 30% of your score. Your length of your credit history will account for 15%. Total credit lines open, 10%, and your total hard inquiries, 10% of your score. Okay, so we're going to make sure that we're paying attention to all of those areas, and we want to do well. As a matter of fact, we want to do perfect in all of those areas so we can achieve that 800 credit score.
So now that's what I wanted to share with you today. I hope this information has been helpful, and now you too can see the path to good credit and to the elusive 800 credit score. One last thing that I want to leave with you before I go is a quote by Aristotle. It says, "We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not one act, but a habit." Close quote. Now, what that says to me is that if we continue to practice good habits over and over and over in our lives, then it's just a matter of time before it starts to manifest. See you at the top, because the bottom is much too crowded.